The Rip City Drive.
But now we get the Miami perspective. We bring in Ira Winderman of the South Florida Sun-Sentinel, Miami Heat beat reporter. Ira, thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Hey, glad to be here, guys. Actually, hold on one second. Dame, do you want ketchup on your burger? Okay, hey, what's up, guys?
Well, Ira, we've been talking about the Blazers, obviously, and the fan perspective. The feeling over the weekend in Portland from Blazer fans was not a happy one. So I got to ask, what was the initial reaction and the vibe you were getting from Heat fans when it was announced that A, he wanted to trade, and B, Miami was his preferred destination?
You know, the Heat have been through so many of these in recent years. There's probably at least 3 separate times they were rumored to be a leading candidate for Kevin Durant. That didn't happen. They were rumored for Kyrie. They were rumored for Bradley Beal. So people are sort of like a here we go again feeling. But, guys, this time it just seems so much more preordained, even without Dame not having a no-trade clause. It just seems he is so tunnel-visioned and the Heat are so tunnel-visioned. And more than anything, and I know you guys have discussed, alternatives up there, and obviously people are throwing out things willy-nilly. Unless I'm wrong, and I know Dwight knows this better than me, I have not heard a concrete single offer from another team or another team even putting it out through their people of significant interest in Dame, which seems really odd. When Durant came on the market, there were a bunch of teams out there. When James Harden came on the market last week, we heard about the Clippers and a bunch of other possibilities for him. New York, maybe even down here in Miami. But there just doesn't seem to be a number 2 in it. It's like, okay, he might go to Miami or he might go to Team X. I don't think Team X has been that clearly delineated. And certainly with the 76ers, they have their own sort of, morass to deal with right now.
Ira, don't you think the search is on now for that third or even fourth team to kind of complete the circle? Because it's pretty obvious by now the Blazers don't have a lot of interest in Tyler Herro, who is a good player. He just doesn't really fit with what they have.
Absolutely. Nor should they. I mean, when you have, Anthony Simons and you have Shaedon Sharpe and you have the number 3 pick in the draft, in a potential emerging, I don't want to say superstar, that's too much to put on him early, in Scoot Henderson, but certainly a star, it's just not a position of need. So no matter what they think of Tyler Herro, you don't want to push the minutes away from any of those 3 guys, so I understand it. But that's how deals get done in this league. And what I sort of don't understand is, as you know, Dwight, a lot of times assets become diminishing value when other things happen in their stead. Tomorrow, contracts become official. The Heat have a pending sign and trade with Max Strus to Cleveland. They have a pending trade deal for a draft pick with Victor Oladipo to Oklahoma City. Here's the deal I don't get about the whole Dame thing. If the Blazers would have moved on draft night, they could have gotten better assets. Hell, they could have gotten the Heat's number 18 pick and picked whoever the heck they want instead of having to consider the player the Heat picked. If they had moved ahead of the start of free agency, there would have been more money available for teams to sort of move things around, to reset the deck chairs to make it work. And if they don't move by tomorrow and the Heat lose the chance to send out cash without anything in return in the Max Strus and Oladipo deals, it's going to mean Portland's going to have to take on some ballast they probably don't want to have to take on. So, yes, you could say you're doing your study work. You could say you're looking into all options. But you know what? Sometimes you got to blank or get off the pot. This thing, I think the longer it goes on, I think it's going to be diminishing returns. And, guys, we always see that is the case.
Talking here with Ira Winderman of the South Florida Sun-Sentinel, Heat beat reporter. Now, Ira, we talk a lot about the money and the assets. I want to talk about fit for a second, because here in Portland, all you talk about is Dame is a poor defender and Portland needs defense. Portland needs defense. So if Dame goes to Miami, that is a culture that has been built on defense. So how does that fit in to that locker room and that lineup?
The Heat have made a lot of really bad defenders look a lot not really bad. They find a way. They found a way to make it work with Max Strus. They found a way to make it work with Duncan Robinson. They have found over the years, again, you have guys like Bam Adebayo, a plus defender. You have someone like Jimmy Butler, a plus defender. You have someone like Caleb Martin, a plus defender. So you can work around those guys. It's not like you have 5 non-plus defenders, So So you have to find a way to sort of fit a guy in the system. The Heat play a ton of zone defense, as you guys saw in the playoffs, the perfect way to hide anyone. And again, it's risk-reward. Yes, Dame gives up a bunch of points, but Dame scores a lot more points than he gives up also, so he's a plus player. Tyler Herro became a plus player with his scoring up and his defense getting a little bit better. Dame will fit in fine because what they need is exactly what he is, which is why from the Heat perspective and from Dame's perspective, it's just a marriage made in heaven. Now, from the Blazers' perspective, hey, you could have dealt him at the trading deadline. You could have not given him the 2-year extension, but you did. You almost created your own poison pills to sort of create this problem.
I agree with that, Ira. Okay. I apologize for this, but I found myself watching the Heat Summer League team on television the other night, and I shouldn't do these kinds of things, but I do. But a couple players did catch my eye: Jaime Jaquez and Jovic. Would those players be available in some kind of deal? Because they looked like young players that maybe you'd want to take a flyer on if you're the Trailblazers.
And I think you do, and I think you can, and I think they would to a limit. But again, what the Heat, everyone thinks the Blazers are holding all the cards here, and they're going to get the Heat to capitulate. And the Heat are very good with their intel. Pat Riley's been here a while. Andy Ellisberg's been here a while. Hell, this front office of this team has almost all been together for 30 years now. They have contacts everywhere. So they're not just going to sit and give up a whole bunch of extra if they don't think there's a competitive bid. Dwight, I think they'd be more likely to give up Jovic. He's really on the timetable of your players.
Yeah.
He's a 20-year-old who still hasn't graduated high school because he needs to get back to Serbia to take his final exam, so he fits right in there with the youth patrol. The thing about Jaquez is he's a 22-year-old, 4-year player at UCLA who is perfectly suited to come in and play with the Heat players because in a win-now complementary situation, again, if the Blazers thought that this was a possibility, why not make this deal before June 22nd and take a player at number 18 more on their timetable? That's the confounding thing. So, yes, I think, end of the day, I don't think the Heat are going to let Nikola Jovic be the one player who stops the deal. I don't think they're going to let Jaime Jaquez be the one player who stops the deal. But you know what? They're getting to a point. Maybe they'll give 2 draft picks instead of 3. Maybe they say no to Caleb Martin. It seems like Cronin's trying to get all these talk show people to talk about how he's going to get the best possible deal. Again, I need to see it. I need to hear it. I need to know. Look, we know the guys are connected. Cham's connected. Woj is connected. But none of those guys have sat down on their outlets and said, if the Blazers are interested, Team X is willing to give up X, Y, and Z. Simply haven't heard it. So I don't think the Heat should bid against no one out there if there's not a market. You didn't see much of a market for Bradley Beal. He had the no trade. That was different. But teams know they got to be careful in these situations also.
Okay, all right. You have covered this team since it was born, and I respect that so much. But I'm going to ask you your opinion. If you're the Trailblazers, who would you trade for on that roster of theirs right now? Who would be a good Trailblazer in your opinion?
Guys, the more I think about this trade, I don't think it's who the Blazers get. I think it's draft capital. I think it's salary cap relief. I think it's a reset. Sometimes your asset becomes a point of diminishing returns when you have a 32, 33-year-old player right now. So I don't think it's going to be the bonanza that, say, the Nets got with Bridges and Cam Johnson and the draft choices from the Suns. I just don't think it's the same place with the same contract, the same winning pedigree in recent years. I think if they get a couple of draft choices, if they get Kyle Lowry's expiring contract, and in a perfect world, a wonderful player for you guys would be Caleb Martin, who defends, who becomes a free agent next summer. They could lock him up long term, who is a real glue guy. So when all the kids are running around with the head cut off, you got Caleb Martin, making up for everyone's mistakes. I think it's a relatively basic deal. They can take Duncan Robinson if they want the shooting. He's available. Tyler Herro to a third team. There's another possibility here also. And this is something I don't get, and Joe Cronin knows better maybe than I do. You can always trade for Tyler Herro now and trade him later. There's no trade clause. So isn't a team like Portland that's going to the bottom and starting all over again, shouldn't it just be about talent acquisition? What's so wrong, guys, about saying, yes, Tyler Herro's not a perfect fit here. But you know what? When we get to the trading deadline, someone might say, hey, we need a former sixth man of the year who's 22 years old, who's a bucket getter. So you know what? Here's 2 more draft choices. Or here's a big man to replace Nurkic and we'll take on his contract. That's what I don't get about all this Portland speculation. To me, it's all about asset acquisition. Who the hell cares if a piece fits right now? Because unless I'm wrong, guys, and don't take this the wrong way, Portland, where are the Blazers going this season anyway?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Ira, you talk about all that money and fit and the assets. I get that. Now, when you're a team like Miami who just went to the finals, you're missing the piece. Dame could be that. You got to get rid of those guys like Duncan and Herro, but long term, is Miami ready to take on a guy who's going to be making a $60 million at the end of this deal and taking up a large chunk of that cap?
Yeah, for 2 reasons. They're living in the moment. They have Jimmy Butler at 34 taking on a large chunk of that cap anyway. They were willing to give 3 years at $85 million to a 35-year-old Kyle Lowry. This team is living in the moment. 2 years ago, 1 win from the NBA Finals. This year, 3 wins from an NBA championship. There was this nice thought of, there's going to be simultaneous teams here. There's going to be Lowry and Jimmy Butler with the older players and Bam and Tyler to start the new generation. Well, guys, when you get that taste, when you come so close, hell, they were in the 2020 finals in the bubble. Also, I think you can't afford to waste Jimmy Butler's years. It's not fair to him. It's the exact opposite of what you guys did in Portland. You chose to waste Dame Lillard's formative best years of his career with trying to do this mix of young and old. It doesn't work. You live in the moment. You know what? If you're telling me, Ira, you're going to look like a bunch of fools with the Heat down there in 3 years when they got nothing, I don't disagree. But I know that this is a team that's going to live in the moment now and worry about tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Blazers could have drafted Bam. They could have traded for Jimmy years ago, but Dame still might get to play with them. Oh, man. Ira, we know you are busy, so we got to just say thank you so much for taking the time. And hopefully we get to talk to you soon. Just it might have to be after the Blazers trade Dame to you.
I literally am writing on my Heat-acquired Dame Lillard story right now on my computer, so when it happens, I am ready to go. But unfortunately, guys, this is the rare time I have to dump an interview early because I got a Thomas Bryant